Hey, how goes it? Ken Bozak here to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories. And today I'm streaming with strangers. Today's stranger is Fishy Guts. We're going to be talking about privacy, piracy, and KMD. How goes it, bros? Don't forget to smash that thumbs up button, click subscribe, flick alert, share the live stream, invite a friend. And Fishy Guts, how goes it, bro? Thanks for coming on the show.
Nice, Ken. Nice to meet you, man. My name is Fishy Guts, or Ryan, if you prefer. I mean, people know me by that by now. Glad to finally sit down and talk with you. I've seen you around crypto Twitter for a while and just in the space in general, and really interesting to sit down and talk with someone like yourself.
Appreciate that, man. Oh, of course somebody wants to call. I'm live on every platform in the world, and you think it's a good time to call. But I appreciate that, man. Yeah, crypto Twitter is one of my favorite places I've found on the internet. I've started from the pre-AOL chat room era where you were just going to random servers to talk to people in the chat rooms they've made, and then there was those AOL chat rooms, and I was a big fan of even things like chat roulette and stuff like that. God forbid I ran into the
Can't
unforgettable,
imagine that at all.
but it was like a great place to kind of get introduced to interacting with people on the internet in different ways. And crypto Twitter is one of the most unique ways to interact with people on the internet. So I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Why don't you go ahead and let everybody know a little bit about yourself? Maybe how you got into cryptocurrencies and what that rabbit hole was kind of like for you.
Sure. So for most people, it's either a buddy or an article or something. I read an article about Monero and Monero being used for dark web activity, and it's the new criminal cryptocurrency of choice. And I just started rolling my eyes at first at the headline, and then I read the article and I was really intrigued. So shortly thereafter, I started mining Monero, and yeah, I mean, I learned about the space from there, and privacy was a big thing when I first started, and from there, yeah, it's just.
But why was privacy such a big thing? Like, why was that on the forefront?
So obviously, the first article that I had seen was about privacy, cryptocurrencies, and so my initial foray was, well, why is that a reason? Why is that even something people talk about? I didn't really know what Bitcoin was at the time either. So started in on that, figured out that Bitcoin isn't a private ledger. It's a very public and open ledger, and I can see why, quote, criminal activity would occur on the Monero blockchain. But again, to me, that was all silly, of course. And yeah, man, from there, it was just a technology breakthrough I saw that was available for people to start pursuing, and to see this many people pursuing it without any, backing, without any corporate backing, without any, reward guaranteed, right? That was a real interesting environment for me. So I jumped right in head first.
So you started mining Monero though, like so you didn't decide to start spending fiat on it at first. You were just like, oh, I could just mine it, right?
Yeah, it took me a few months before I started buying crypto, so that was a neat way for me to jump into it, especially with Monero at the time, trying to figure out how to use their freaking wallets. And
I always promote earn it before you buy it. It's the best way to get involved. Everybody's like, I was like, look, whatever you're doing now, figure out how to do it in that way in this industry and earn some. There's bounty programs. Mining is so easy if you just want residual income. Set that miner up and kind of forget about it.
Right. So,
and it's a good way to hedge too.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, look, it's kind of like a hobby to me. I think more so than anything. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a statistician.
It's not an investment. It's a hobby. I dig it.
Yeah, I'm not like counting the kilowatt hours. I am making sure that I'm breaking even at this point.
Yeah, in this market at least.
Right, but it's more of a hobby. It just keeps me learning different aspects of the whole ecosystem. So that's why I've still been mining to this day still.
Well, miners, institutional, like larger miners did have mined negative, in the past for months on end to then profit from holding those, coins that were a negative for the market at the time. And during bull runs from bear markets, we've seen those, mining facilities make their money back exponentially. Maybe being in the negative 3, 4, 5 months, it does seem to bounce back pretty well for the miners in the long term if they can withstand the winters.
Yeah, I think it also lies in looking at good projects and picking good projects,
Yep.
right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably a
I
big
mean, but
factor.
what makes a project a good project, right? It's
I was
hard.
literally just going to ask you that question, man.
It's hard. I mean, right now we're such an early state. We don't really have any, mainstream successful projects that we can just go, all right, anything they do must be gold. We don't really have the, those that we can point to yet, established since, '09 or whatever. We don't have anybody like that. But I mean, I guess we could look at the teams of the companies and projects that have come far enough, right? I mean, you can look at Dan Latimer from BitShares. You can follow him to Steam It, now EOS. You can kind of take all of those projects into consideration and kind of use foresight into the next project if he were to work on a fourth project. And then you can see where the team that he has accumulated came from and kind of apply the same algorithm. But that's really all we have right now. It's like, how close has your project come to success, and how successfully did it fail? And let's see how you do on the next one.
Well, and you use the word success, but the definition of that is what? It's different to many people in this space too, right? Some people success is a big bank account. Some people success is usage. Some people success is just completing something without any bugs in it, right? So
Yeah, selling
um,
it off. We got bought out. We're a success.
right. So hold on, let me transfer some Ripple here to sell real quick.
Oh my god, dude! I saw a video today on Twitter where that dude that looks like Lurch but overweight. What's his name? David Schwartz. So yeah, that dude, man, he was like, yeah, I'm really liking that Ripple's getting more and more decentralized. I think we're more decentralized than Bitcoin and Ethereum now. My brain melted. I think it leaked out of my nose. I had to do a line of stem cells to fix it.
Certainly an interesting statement to make, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about piracy, and now we have BitTorrent basically adding like when I saw BitTorrent come out with that BTT token, like the first voice I heard was Rick from Rick and Morty, like that's slavery with more steps, like we already had it working. It worked fucking fine. We've been doing piracy since the beginning of the internet. We didn't need to tokenize. That does not need to be tokenized. Obviously, it is success decentrally, unregulated. Nobody can stop it. It works. But now they want to tokenize it. I'm like, this is the perfect example of like taking advantage of a perfect situation and setting it one step back.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally true. It's not even as a situation like Bcash where someone forks something and tries to make it better in their own way, right? This is literally just how can we put a stamp on something that someone recognizes and someone will blindly follow, right, because it's got a brand name to it, and we've got Tron and BitTorrent, man. Let's smash them together and see what we can come up with. And then the fact that it's on Binance and supported by Tether already, I don't have anything wrong with Binance, but it's just like seems like a lot, already.
I got some problems with Binance actually, but I'll save that for a segue later. But yeah, I just feel like what they're trying to do is centralize something that has been working decentralized for a long time, and then they're trying to monetize that and take a cut off of it where that wasn't necessary before. These torrent sites worked off of donations forever. That's all the servers have ever needed, was the charity of those who were already contributing to the cost, right? Like most people that are donating to the servers are seeders, are seeders. They want people to download their files. They want to share. What's his? Oh man, I used to download.
That's the sales pitch, right? Oh, we'll have more seeders now.
No, though you won't, because seeders don't want to go through with that process of getting paid. They're not greedy people. First off, otherwise they wouldn't be the fucking Robin Hoods of the digital era. And second off, they don't want you to know where their money is. They don't want you to pay them because they don't want to be even Monero. They wouldn't even want, because they don't want to get paid. One, and two, I don't know. I don't see. I mean, eventually I would see that, BitTorrent is a company, it's a business. If you want to be a seeder and get paid, you're going to have to go through KYC, set up a bank account, you're going to have to pay taxes on that money. Like, who's going to be file sharing through a system of a company that's going to make you go through KYC when you get paid? Like, there's no way the company's not going to they can't allow you to make money on their company's platform without knowing who you are to say, hey, we know you're not paying your taxes. Like, it's not going to work out.
You know, we have a lot of projects that have not worked out at this point, and we may be looking at another one. Who knows, right?
I wanted to, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, I'm not trying to wish failure upon anyone for certain. That's not the goal.
No, I love BitTorrent. I think I've been a fan of Justin Sun since, the beginning. I loved his marketing. And I've always appreciated him for his marketing skills. Like, I have we just partnered with McDonald's, and it's like they bought McDonald's burgers for everybody at the office that day. I loved it. It was genius. He was trolling, but now it's gotten a little out of hand.
No, it's true. It's true. I think that, stepping back to that KYC mention and privacy, stuff like that's important in the space, and another coin that's just being brought out to make money for a select few, right? We've read some numbers about coin emission and who's got what coins, and there's still data being done on that, but I didn't buy it. That's all I can say. How about that?
Yeah, no, I didn't either. I mean, like I said, if I were to do it, I would just earn it, right? I would see how I would earn it by seeding, but then again, I wouldn't want to submit any KYCs. And I mean, to segue back into why I don't like Binance as much is they have incorporated Chainalysis publicly. They've said that they incorporated Chainalysis into their company. And I could see them using Chainalysis, BTT, and exposing these seeders that have been disrupting the entertainment industry for a century. Like, they don't want you out there file sharing these movies and music, and the money behind that is just as big as the banking industry, man. Like, the lobbying, the centralization, and the self-importance that they make themselves through all that, it's scary, dude. They have a lot of reason to throw money behind keeping themselves in these centralized points of importance. Like, oh, you want to do a record, you want to throw a concert. Like, look at Ticketmaster, man. They came out of nowhere, and now you can't do anything without going through them. So, like, there's a lot of money to be made, and it's a big industry to combat. So it's really disruptive, and I feel like tokenizing it and trying to monetize that is a step back in file sharing and what it all stands for.
Without a doubt. I mean, without a doubt. You mentioned something about Binance and KYC and exposing clients. There's no precedent that it's going to happen, but there's no reason it can't happen, right? There's no reason that the Quadriga founder died in India and kept the keys to himself. There's no reason for that, right? There's no reason for a lot of things, but stepping back towards Binance and the KYC stuff, they have to play by the rules somewhat. There's so much money going through there. There's so much trading going on that they really do have to play by the rules to some extent.
Yep.
To some point. So I don't shame them or blame them for that, No,
but people think that, when they're on Binance, they're living in this magical playground that, nobody can mess with them. And I'm like, if you look back at not even a year ago, Poloniex was acquired by Goldman Sachs, mandatory KYC was issued, and I can literally call 100 people right now that have Bitcoin and crypto sitting on Poloniex that they'll never ever touch because it's never going to be worth them submitting that KYC information and then have Chainalysis implement it back on their public addresses where they received it. It's not worth it. So just be careful because, Binance can do whatever Binance wants, but the U.S. government can come in and regulate Binance and say that now you have to issue like that 2 Bitcoin a day without KYC thing. That's a blessing going to disappear soon. I don't see it sticking around forever. If they want to keep doing business here, they could always say, all right, we don't work with the U.S., whatever.
Right. Well, they have a lot of stake with that, with Tether and their new credit card availabilities, right? They don't want to lose that market. So they're going to do
What are your thoughts on that?
For the new credit card stuff?
Yeah, and debit card. Credit card and debit card. And you can buy any shitcoin you want.
So My personal views on credit is I hate it and I don't use it. I got in way too much trouble a lot of years ago. I stopped using it, so I paid all my stuff off. The only reason anyone should use a credit card on a site to buy, um, like Binance, to buy crypto is if they're buying a disposable $200 card and they're throwing that money into crypto. You know, there's no plausible reason to buy credit.
No, there
Uh,
really isn't. They're incentivizing people to cause more debt, you know, and to buy these coins with money they don't have, which could, you know, eventually, and it will affect the value of the tokens. You know, when
right.
people can start buying into these tokens with, you know, fiat, which is basically the worst shit coin in history, and this shit coin dumps, the pairing is going to bring down all these coins with it instead of it being paired to Bitcoin mostly. You know, when Bitcoin, you know, rises or kind of dips, a lot of the coins follow it because they're paired to Bitcoin. But
Right.
when the government can like, that's why I'm not a big fan of the futures and ETFs and all these means of getting fiat in. I mean, I want people to be earning Bitcoin and contributing to the economy of it and spending it in the economy of it. But when we have these on ramps, it's again, it's a step backwards. And you know, it sounds great. You know, Binance can do whatever they want. They can let you use credit cards and debit cards. But already now, debit cards and credit cards are saying, well, we don't want to fuck with exchanges, so no. So if you have like a Citibank or a Scotia Bank account, they're like, no, you can't
Yeah.
use our debit or credit card. So it doesn't matter what Binance says you can do. The regulators can step in and be like, nope, shut it down.
Yeah. It's just a way to cause a little excitement, stir people up, bring some extra funds into the market for them, and ultimately create maybe lifelong customers. So the goal for Binance isn't really to get everyone to start buying on credit. It's to get more people onto Binance. So even if they do use one credit card one time, they may not the next time.
Yeah, what are your
But they're
thoughts
more
on
likely.
buying privacy coins with that credit card and debit card?
Well, that's why I said with the $200, disposable, right?
Exactly, it's the only way. But now I feel like they're really going to start to get these privacy coins in some sort of like centralized, like private ledger that they made, where they try to make public the addresses in it using these on ramps. That's why I'm concerned for people that may, you know, think that they're going to be able to donate to, you know, WikiLeaks and not have any repercussions if they run for office. And it turns out, you know, somebody, journalists, found out that you were supporting WikiLeaks when you were in high school with Monero because you bought it with your debit card on Binance, and now you're trying to run for office, and now it looks like you're a cyber criminal because you liked
Right.
WikiLeaks. Like, I don't know, whatever scenario you can picture in your mind.
Well, that's not even a far-fetched scenario in terms of the result, maybe, but in terms of it happening. So the exchanges don't work like a regular wallet does, where you deposit and you've got a bunch of separate wallets for each user. They've got one wallet typically, and that wallet will, when a user deposits funds, that'll be associated with that user's account, right? It's not associated to their quote wallet. So even if you have a privacy coin, it's going to be associated straight to their account, like you said. And when you have that much money going through, and like you said, when the entertainment industry starts pushing the government to find out who's torrenting files through Binance, that information's out there, that data's out there. Whether or not you use Monero or BTT or Pirate or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it just freaks me out a little bit with the ignorance of some people and the positions they put themselves in because of it. You know, it's like some people aren't in a position where they can afford to buy a movie a month. You know what I mean? It's like, and entertainment is what is, you know, helps people with depression, X, Y, Z. So I could see why it would be like, you know, worst case scenario, I need to download a movie or whatever. I can't afford to pay for it. And I'm going to go through all this extra steps just to find out you put yourself in harm's way because you didn't understand what a VPN was at the bare minimum. You know, I don't know, it creeps me out. But I've been a big fan of file sharing, not just for like torrenting, you know, movies and musics, but you know, there's a lot of journalistic reasons for using file sharing and torrents, and it's been used overseas a lot. You know, during the most recent wars, and even in Venezuela, a lot of the mainstream media won't allow them to even share the content. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they'll delete the videos of the people that are on the ground living in this war-stricken area, and they don't have a way to express the need that they're in to the world. But then they could upload these videos to torrents and share those files around the world without any central point of failure. And That's where
Right.
I'm looking at it when I come to like file sharing. It's not just about stealing from the mainstream entertainment industry, but it's also about decentralizing, the media and content itself. And it's bigger than just taking money out of Justin Bieber's pocket. It's stopping Fox from fake news.
Your point right there is something that not a lot of people think about when they think about this torrent stuff. And I gotta say, stop! You're giving Justin more ammo to pump that coin, man. No,
No,
it's a very.
there's good points and bad points to that
Yeah,
coin. I will admit it, but I think it's more negative than positive. That's all.
I was just kidding, but that's a very valid point. That the network for people to share wasn't set up for monetizing; it was set up for ultimately the exact purpose that you're talking about: data sharing, information sharing, where it may not be legal to share, or you could have risks in sharing that data and information. So definitely a positive use for the project, but um, ultimately, if you're buying it on Binance, man, they know who you are, they know where you're at, they know what you're doing, and if they want to,
Yeah.
and you're earning coins and selling them, they can subpoena your ass, which probably won't be fun.
No, no, man. And there's levels to this privacy thing too. I don't know if you could break it down for the viewers. I could try, but like Dash and Monero, they're totally private, but they're different in levels of privacy. I personally don't know if Monero will be the dominant privacy coin, excuse me, in the institutional investor world, like retail maybe, but I don't see big corporations like seeing most benefits in Monero. But with Dash, it's optional privacy. You can opt in to the privacy feature. So I can see a peer-to-peer and a B2B reason for a corporation or an industry to kind of utilize that. But when it's mandatory privacy, I just don't see, with regulations and the way that banking works, and I just don't see them ever even being able to have the option legally to use Monero because of the mandatory privacy feature. It's too private. So is there any way that you can maybe break down how Monero is a little bit more private than Dash in that sense?
Yeah, so I try to typically break down privacy coin protocols in a sense that people have a little easier under time understanding. And Monero privacy is three card Monte, right? In New York, where they're on the box and they got the three cards and they're shuffling the cards around and you're trying to figure out which one is, that's kind of a good example for Monero. Is you're going to have a real hard time figuring that out. But instead of three cards, it's 10 tables of three guys all doing it, and you got to figure out which card it is. It's just like, good luck, right? So they do have a strong protocol in that sense, but they also have the ability to share your data and your information with those you choose to. I think that's a very important distinction in a protocol, right? That um, that may have an adoption phase, let's say, for widespread use, because once you have that ability to share the information, uh, then it becomes more on the user. It's a little more. Um, I'm not even going to try and guess the right word at it, but it's a little more friendly to authorities, in that sense. So the fact that Monero does have that ability, Zcash is working on that. They've discussed that it was being integrated with Sapling, but I guess there's no data available yet on their sharing information. I'm still working on that with our tech team since we're based on Zcash, but the really plausible use for future acceptance lies in the fact that you will be able to share the data with whom you choose,
I didn't
right?
know that
So
about
like,
Monero. That's interesting.
what's that?
I didn't know that you could do that with Monero. It opt in to allow somebody to see the transaction history. Like if you were a node, you could have a trusted like viewer. I would assume.
I believe they use what's called a viewing key, and so
Interesting.
that view key, I believe, is also transaction specific. So, just because I give you my view key doesn't mean you can see everything else I've done, right? Maybe for that address, but again, you typically want to generate new addresses for each transaction anyways. So, that should
I
keep your
see that.
privacy in
So
that
if
regard.
I was a company using Monero, then obviously I would opt in to give that viewing key to like the IRS or my accountant and stuff like that.
Right. So Sapling integration for Zcash has the verbiage in their release that they have view keys available. I don't think that's
Well, it makes me think immediately that if I can choose to let you see what I want, I could still launder money in the background and cook my books because I would just hide one or two transactions here or there. It would be the same thing as cooking the books with a pen and paper.
you know people do it with cash
Yeah,
already,
exactly, exactly.
right? So I mean, I'm not going to sit there and pretend like there aren't nefarious people in the world.
Oh, there's
Privacy.
nefarious ways to use Bitcoin. It does not mean Bitcoin is evil. I like to play devil's advocate too much.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's a good healthy discussion to have anytime you're talking about something crypto related, instead of sitting there in an echo chamber going,
Right.
this is
Sometimes I say shit I don't even actually believe. It's just I know somebody opposite of us is going to say it.
it's true. No, and again, it's always a good point to bring up and discuss. So I think that in the future, and probably in the near future, as privacy becomes more about personal security in cryptocurrency and your own personal informational security in cryptocurrency, I think privacy coins will start to have more adoption and more increased utility and usability. Again, as long as it comes along with functionality, like you said, of being able to share your information with whom you choose, such as the government or for your tax purposes or so forth and so on.
Right. So let's talk about maybe mainstream or on ramping, the world into, this world of, digital era where we have privacy, where mainstream gets into this. How do you see that? Like, what's the big appeal? What's the pros and cons right now that retail companies, not so much maybe the bigger ones though, are looking at this because there's positives and negatives to each side of the coin. But what's like the elevator pitch right now for on ramping the mainstream into this?
Who's in the elevator?
It would be you and a small business owner who has maybe a few businesses, and he's like, "What's up with this Monero coin? Why this rather than Visa, or rather
Yeah,
than Bitcoin even?"
sure. So let's say, I mean, let's use Bitcoin for an example, right? If he's got any competitors, they can figure out where he's spending money. They can figure out where he's who he's working with on something like that. They can figure out what his costs are, his operational expenses, perhaps. Again, we're assuming someone uses entirely Bitcoin for their transactional history, right? Sometime in the hopefully near future. um, and so, for that person, I would basically say, look, you're not going to walk into your distributors and tell everyone else how much you're paying in line as you're walking up to the front to pay for your goods. That's essentially what you're doing using something like Bitcoin. If you use something like Monero, not only do your distributors not know what you're paying for goods, but your customers also don't know what you're receiving for costs. So your customers aren't going to come back to you and say, "Hey, you charged Johnny more than less than you charged me for the same job. What's up with that?" Right? And that goes to, again, personal security, business privacy, that sort of thing, where it's all very important to have.
Right. Yeah, I see that. I mean, I guess it's like basically you have like the same features of having a bank account without all the central points of failure. You still like if you use your bank to buy your parts, nobody can see from that transaction how much you have in your bank account. But then there is also that point of failure where somebody working at the bank could be duped into thinking it's you on the phone when it's not, and money can be transferred somewhere else. Or chargebacks. Chargebacks are a big problem, especially in businesses with suppliers. It's not so bad when customers do it, right? When it's a couple bucks, but when a supplier does it, dude, it can be fucking huge. You're talking thousands of dollars, and
Right.
you really got to hope that they ship back those supplies after they stole the money. So, yeah, I mean, it is beneficial in a lot of ways, and especially if you can get them interested in mining the token or the coin with their business's excess electricity when the employees aren't there. Like, hey man, if your business is only open 8 hours a day, you might as well be having miners use some of that power. I'm just saying. And you could secure your own network by being your own bank and more.
Yeah, that's true. I think that if you're talking to, a government agent, let's say you're talking to a tax guy or a city official about the same thing in that same elevator, you're going to be able to talk about your citizens' privacy and your citizens' safety, and you know they may have this nefarious connotation with cryptocurrencies, but it's worse with cash, man.
Yeah, no, it is. Look at lottery winners. Win the lottery. See how many people try to stick you up, dude. Nobody like it's scary because cash is the worst currency to have, man. It really is. It's just designed to fail. But because it's designed to fail, they've hedged against that with the interest on it. So like the more it fails, the more they make. So it's like great for the whales at the other end of the boat here. But I was curious what your thoughts are on other currencies adopting these protocols because open source makes this all viable. Even Charlie Lee has spoken about Litecoin implementing privacy protocols and making Litecoin more private. And my pitch was anything to people that like were big altcoin maximalists. This is kind of my pitch is anything your coin can do, Bitcoin can do and will do better if the developers choose to do it. That's all. And it looks like some of these coins, their developers are choosing to implement these privacy blockchain protocols that are open source. So I'm just like, what are your thoughts? Is that something that could take away some legitimacy from true privacy coins that have been private from the get-go? Or does it establish a credibility to some coins? What are your thoughts?
So you mentioned a couple things. The first thing, when you're talking about switching from a non-private chain to a private chain, I guess fungibility could be considered something that could be moved towards. However, you also mentioned another outfit called Chainalysis, right? And they've got the data already, man. That data is there. And as soon as they see stuff going into private addresses, they can start linking stuff coming out of private addresses. I mean, it's hard to fathom the amount of compute power that's available to these three-letter agencies who wanna get, the information out of it. But the compute power is probably there, and if they want your data, they're going to be able to pull it out of something like that. Whereas something like Monero, even though they may have possible perceived previous, listen to that alliteration, possibly perceived previous privacy
It's a bumper sticker.
They have continually strengthened their protocol and made it stronger. And being a ubiquitous privacy coin where there's no optional privacy, the fungibility is much higher than, let's say, if Litecoin switched, right? So someone like Zcash, for example, who already has optional privacy is a good example of what you may expect from people to use. So I haven't looked in a few months, but about 3 months ago, Zcash had about 7% of their funds total in shielded pools. So 7 to 10% of their funds, which means that 90% of the funds aren't shielded. The best, from a magic trick standpoint, I could say, if someone were able to do the disappearing coin trick in front of you, right? Make a coin disappear. And you picture 100 people walking down the street doing that. 90 people are going to be fumbling around and dropping their coins, and only 10 people are going to be able to hide them. You're going to know who's hiding their coins, right? If everyone, like if Zcash were to switch to a Z transaction only chain like Pirate is,
that is interesting.
They would have a much higher fungibility and privacy, stronger
privacy. A privacy coin is only as private as the end users. That's really what you're saying. I mean, if like you said, there's 90% of people not using the privacy feature of that blockchain, it wouldn't be too hard to figure out who the other 10% actually are.
Right.
So is optional privacy a net negative then for a currency? Like that's why I was thinking, like I didn't know that about Monero, and I was worried about that with Dash, where if too many people opt in to share that data, does it completely destroy the integrity of the privacy of the blockchain?
That's the prevailing sort of theory for most people who are into privacy in a serious fashion, right? There's some people who you look at privacy like medicine, where it's very serious and people's lives could be at risk, let's say, and safety if privacy isn't done right. And there's some people who look at privacy like a sales tool because it'll help us sell more, coins, and it'll bring the Satoshi in, So I think that there's definitely a farce when it comes to coins like, I'm not even going to start naming names, But you can think of all these optional privacy coins out there who've been showing how great they are at privacy, when in fact no one's using it. So if no one's using it, then there's no utility. Uh, so like Monero is a big adoption pusher for this, getting exchanges to list their coin, right? Getting it, websites and e-commerce to start using their coin. Zcash is very innovative in that regard, but they aren't as forceful on the adoption side, right?
Mm.
So on Pirate, we're a Z to Z only chain. We've been trying to get listed on exchanges. It's been a pain in the butt just because no one supports that yet, right? So
That's why we need decentralized exchanges, not really, thriving to get listed on those centralized ones again, because that could cause points of failure with KYC implementations.
true, true. I was just going on the lines of getting privacy adoption, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Where it becomes something that's common, right? Not something that's thrived for. I mean, privacy isn't something we should thrive to get. It should be just given, a given, and then we opt out of it if we choose so. But I do believe privacy is a God-given right. We have the right to I have the right to have a private conversation with you, as I do to hand you a $5 bill or to write you a note or X, Y, and Z. But unfortunately, people have been conditioned to not really believe that. And if I don't know if it's, if it has to do, probably 50-50, right? With, the fear of the mainstream media's portrayal of the use of privacy by nefarious, people, and then the portrayal of actually how it is used against us by our own governments has kind of desensitized us to it. Like, look what Edward Snowden has gone through and has barely have been a blip in the dent of the topic of privacy. It's disgusting, but it is what it is. We're so desensitized to it as a whole that we're just okay with not having any privacy. People, we hear about our webcams being able to be hacked. People don't put these things. Look, I got that little slider on there. I do that. Nobody uses that, but they all know that their webcams are hacked. It's just they're okay with it. Yeah. People are just okay with it. You got to do that stuff, guys. You just got to, because privacy isn't by default. It just isn't. Every machine that has been built from every company that has built a chip up, it's been designed to share data, never hold that data private.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not the company itself is using it or accessing it, that's not the question. It's there. It can be used if someone finds a way to get access to your system.
How long ago was it that we found out that Intel chips have back doors to the CIA, and this has been like common public knowledge and nobody cares? It's integrated to the chip. They can just open that, and it's just there. And then we find out a 16-year-old girl finds a back door to WhatsApp, like that, iMessage. That's what it was. FaceTime. A 16-year-old, like, come on, you really thought that was a glitch or a vote? No, that was a back door. And this kid picked the lock, opened it, and was like, "Holy shit!" I get worried for people like that because this is where the kind of people that they'll sprinkle kiddie porn in their emails and have them demonized and arrested and take that cause that they're fighting for and burn it like a witch hunt.
No. So let me ask you a question, Ken. What do you see as a major on-ramp of adoption for privacy coins? And, I'm not looking for any nefarious answers because that's, the immediate thing people go to, but I would think of whatever they want with money. And just for the record, porn is not nefarious. Anything that's legal in the state that you reside in is not nefarious.
I was just going to start with adult entertainment and cannabis consumption and companies involved in the cannabis industry. Because right now in the United States, there's cannabis companies that exist, but they're breaking federal law. They're completely operationing state level legally, but at a federal level, which is over state, I mean, they're just breaking law. So they're not entitled to have a bank, which would help them secure their funds from people that would be incentivized to rob the cannabis industry or to stick up a sex worker, like an escort or a stripper on their way out of the club. These people are cash carrying honeypots, and it's not fair that they're disadvantaged because of that. And people everywhere are okay with it because they don't worry about their rights until it's too late. The saying, like, they come for my neighbors, they come for my family, then they come for me, and by then it's too late. You have to start fighting for your neighbors' rights now, and it starts with the sex workers, it starts with the cannabis industry, industry. And believe it or not, it does start with the piracy industry as well. Like I said, it provides freedom, and it actually stabilizes journalistic integrity. The reputation of a journalist in a decentralized manner that resides off of donations rather than advertisements from fucking Crest toothpaste that will never tell you about the fluoride in it coming from China. That is integrity, journalistic integrity, that is taking away when we have Fox News throw fucking ads up by Crest. You know, that's what we lose. So the point of the privacy, though, like where I say one step farther than using Bitcoin for this as a decentralized currency and needing privacy on top of this layer, would be that you're becoming a target now of lobbyists and in mafia-esque industries. Mainstream media, the pharmaceutical industry, if you're the cannabis company, and again, the entertainment industry just has it out for the adult world. There's just nothing that we can do to get around it, but it's because it's a lot easier for me to turn on my webcam and jerk off than it is to become the next Justin Bieber. And if we can do that everywhere, then it really takes a lot of money out of the centralized authorities' pockets that want their 90% cut and give you the 10% as a content creator. And you feel like you're blessed because you're making millions of dollars a year and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of you. So my privacy on-ramp, like mainstream reasoning would be, you know, to secure your wealth in a way that when your government does, which it will decide to turn against you, you're secure. It's like the right to bear arms is to right to financial freedom and sovereignty. So if you're the big believer in owning a gun because your government may turn against you, then own some fucking privacy coins too, because Bitcoin ain't going to be enough when the government turns against you.
So, you know, we got to get to that point where people understand that it has value and utility across the board, right? Not with the 2% of the population that uses it or whatever the figure is currently, right? So when we talk about on-ramps, you talk about cannabis, you talk about porn. I think those are great on-ramps, which also have historically been targets, which is very unfortunate, right? Anytime something like that becomes popular or, you know, well-to-do, it instantly becomes a target for attacks and for media to get against it. I think there's other reasons too for on-ramps, but as you said, companies who profit from having your data don't necessarily want to have you allowed that type of privacy, right? So for example, like an insurance company wouldn't want you to be able to hide all your spending activities in the future because let's say you're a drinker or you're a smoker or you buy lots of something, you know, and then all of a sudden your rates go up because XYZ.
Because Visa snitches on you, man, and they say you buy cigarettes even though you're not buying them for yourself, you're buying them for your kid or your wife or your friend or your neighbor. Now your insurance company said, well, Visa said you're a smoker. Dude, I've seen this happen to a lot of people.
Right. So it's not a farce and it's not far away. It's data shelling and sharing is occurring and being used against us already. And so we've got to get away where the on-ramp of acceptance and utility becomes easier, functional, something that people can enjoy and appreciate. We like the idea of the cannabis and the porn industry. You know, I think they're good on-ramps. I also think there's a lot of other good on-ramps. I think there's people like yourself and myself who just want to have privacy, right? But I don't think there's a way for them to you know, do business in that functional manner, right? So there's got to be, you know, a private Amazon.com eventually someday where people can go and use privacy cryptos and shop.
I think OpenBazaar is like the building block of that decentralized Amazon. It's really like that stepping stone into it, where if I wanted to run a business, I could just run a node and that would basically be like my server for my site. And if you wanted to visit my business and my server was down, you could actually run that open source script shot from my business while you ran the site. I don't know. I think that you're right. You're really onto something there. And I wanted to touch on KMD a little bit and talk about Komodo before we wrap things up here, because these, like I said, the building blocks, these are the things that make it possible for mainstream adoption and really on-ramping these industries into this, you know, new era of technology. It's really hard for them to visualize how to do it because they don't have anybody in-house. There's no way for, you know, a company to, you know, like say Philip Morris, because the chat's talking about big tobacco right now. Say Philip Morris wants to put tobacco on the blockchain. blockchain. That's just a fever dream to them, right? There's no one that they can go to and say, with the IoT devices and these incentivized blockchains, how can we track this on a supply chain utilizing open source ledgers, blah, blah. That's all foreign words to them. But now we have things like Komodo, which, like I've said earlier before we went live, it's sort of like an a la carte plug and play option for institutional companies to kind of at least visualize how to get their company to use blockchain, right? Because not every blockchain solution is a solution to a company. It could actually cause another problem that they have to find another solution for. So this is a way for them to kind of zoom out and get the bigger picture and kind of play around with, like, in a virtual world, how their company could work with blockchain. So maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what KMD is for the viewers.
Sure. So as you had mentioned, it really gives companies, outsiders, people who don't understand blockchain that well, an opportunity to, I believe the phrase you used was a la carte, plug and play their own blockchain, right?
Yeah.
So find specific things that they like about blockchain, as you mentioned, supply tracking or IoT connectivity or anything of that nature, scalability, transactions per second, that Komodo is able to basically custom make a blockchain for their solution. Within the ecosystem, there's probably 5 groups of guys now who are doing stuff like this, from chain makers to indie nodes to Chainzilla. Most recently actually just had an ICO. They're a blockchain as a service company to the bone, and so everything they do, they offer to help people produce and get off the ground their own blockchain right out the gate, right? There's no wallet development. They've got that handled. There's no coin integration. They've got that handled. They'll take care of third-party integration for you. They just need to know what you want to do, right? And they'll have it up and running in probably less than a week, you know?
Shit.
And so it's really great to have groups like that in the ecosystem.
Who would be their demo? Like, who are they appealing to, do you think?
To set up?
Like Komodo, like, you know, who would be their demo audience right now? Who's their key demographic that you would say, you know, or maybe industries that aren't really utilizing them yet? Like I would say, like, there seems to be, you know, misuse of incorporation of the technology right now. We've seen from failed ICO integrations like, what was that, Kik? Even Kodak camera got involved at some point. There was a few mainstream companies that tried to utilize blockchain, and it just seemed to fail. I'm just wondering, like, where do you see, you know, the demographic, you know, audience customer for Komodo?
Well, as with anything, the first question you need to ask yourself is, do you need a blockchain for this, right? Did Kodak need a blockchain for that? Probably not. So, you know, we have one. It's called Twitter or Snapchat.
Right,
so it's
right.
Called, Instagram, right?
Instagram, exactly, dude. And their stocks are worth X amount, and they can't even post a link in my photo, so I don't get it.
Right. So, but there are companies who might have a use for this. Let me just try and cook up some sort of random examples, since this is a pretty much on-the-spot question. Let's say I'm a data company, and I do, you know, $5 billion a year in data sales and transferring, and I've got, you know, 1,000 employees across the United States, and maybe 100 of those employees are tech guys, IT guys, computer guys, server guys. There's real estate to house those servers. There's electric cost to house those servers. If I was somehow, some way able to create a blockchain for my users to instead help me with that capacity, I might be able to save millions of dollars a year in expenses costs, from health insurance to employee costs to space costs to hardware upgrade costs, and just that list just could be endless, right, for something like that.
Sounds like if you have a decentralized business, you need a decentralized solution.
Right. And they could say, you know, we need to have transactions every 10 seconds. We need to be able to access our data that fast. We need to have this much data. We need that. And Komodo could step in and say, here's what you're going to need. And, you know, do you need developer help too? We have these guys who can help you out, right? And someone who has no blockchain experience could come in and work with these guys and figure out a way to fire their product off.
You know how I see every single company stepping into this, their first step, I really do truly believe this, it will be through marketing. I feel like the marketing industry is as dead to me as the banking industry is, thanks to Bitcoin. The fact that we can monetize, incentivize, and gamify the attention economy, which is now replacing the industrial economy. The industrial economy will be replaced by the IoT devices of the world, and we will now have more time to be us and be creative and create content, consume content, spend attention, and with things like Basic Attention Token and other companies that are working on these solutions. I mean, it is without a doubt, I believe, how every company will see a solution in blockchain this way. They're going to say, well, we're going to use blockchain smart contracts to issue rewards to people that view our ads based on the time, blah, blah, blah. And they'll be able to do this with geographic, smart contracts that are locked in when you utilize these like web browsers, like even Opera and Brave have built-in cryptocurrency wallets defaulted into the browser. And this is what I think is enabling the concept of advertisers to monetize the attention. So why would a company hire a giant loyalty or royalty company that is a centralized entity that's taking a huge cut when they could decentralize that, use smart contracts, and basically replace that entire industry like we're doing with Bitcoin when it comes to the banking industry? And this is every company has this in common. Marketing is key. It doesn't matter what you do, you have to market.
Sure.
So I really see that the attention economy and the way marketing moving forward, every single company's first introduction into this will be through a marketing channel, and it will have loyalty and royalty incentives for that industry, whether it be like McDonald's Big Mac coins for watching ads, or X, Y, and Z for doing like polls and reviewing your experiences at the shops and stuff like that.
Right.
And they could reach out to Komodo and say, this is what we need. We need marketing, we need advertising, we need eyes on ads, and this is our budget. And now, like, they're saving a huge amount of money that even if they took half of that money that they were paying, they could give it back to you and me, the customers that are going to bring that money right back to them anyway. So they're going to get 100% of their money back.
Right. Well, you mentioned rewards programs. I know it sounds silly, but just for another example, let's say, Albertsons or whatever your local grocery store is, they pay for a rewards program right now. They may have an internal software system set up, some of them, but I don't think all of them do. And let's just assume for a minute that they are paying for that usage. First of all, the data is not in their control. They don't have all the data. They don't know all the data. Second of all, that company can then turn around and do whatever they want with that data too, as per terms of a contract they might have. Whereas Albertsons might be able to retain all that data, not only use it more properly for buying habits, right? You can track customers' buying and spending habits on items they buy. You can use it to run your business more efficiently from that end.
And that will be gamified as well, because I'd be able to opt into sharing that information. And by doing so, I would earn based on the profit that gave you.
You earned some free lube this week, right? Because of all your spending habits, Ken, right? So
yeah, I mean, KY Jelly knows exactly what I'm up to because I opted into sharing my habits with them.
Just make sure to delete your Amazon browsing and spending history if you share your account with anyone. That's
yeah, right. I don't want any ads that don't appeal to me because somebody hopped on my browser and started searching things that aren't my desires. And that's the thing that happens on Facebook. And when that brings me to something with centralization of marketing as well, and that may tie into privacy in a way. But like, you can't advertise in certain avenues because of regulations, and that's because other companies have lobbied that in to suffocate you from becoming. A big thing right now is do not ever post your startup on Facebook, ever. Wait till you have capital, wait till you have patents, wait until it is on paper and legal, and then you talk about it on Facebook, then you make a Facebook page, because Facebook will fucking steal your startup idea, and that's it. What are you gonna do? You use their platform to talk about this thing. It was an idea. They stole it because you opted into using their platform, which means that information is public and theirs to use. They own that information that you put out there. So it's like really sketchy. And then on top of it, like I said, the centralization of not even being able to advertise. If you're a blockchain company like Komodo, good luck getting an ad on Facebook. Good luck getting an ad on Twitter. That's why I like that we can do things on like Steam blockchain and promote posts and use that as advertising to people that are in the economy already, instead of promoting Komodo on Facebook, which has billions of users, but nobody cares about blockchain, rather than a couple active thousands of users on Steam where they all care about blockchain.
Right. Definitely the marketing aspect has a lot to do with targeting your audience, and not only targeting your audience, but targeting the right audience. Just because you post something on Reddit doesn't mean people are going to, appreciate it and like it. But if you've got, a cryptocurrency Medium account where you've got 1,000 readers, that's a great spot, right? A Steemit account where you've got a huge crypto following for people in that regard, great spot, right? Even the people who aren't using it for crypto know about crypto because it's part of this ecosystem. So, definitely good with the marketing side.
Is anybody actively using Komodo right now for those features to kind of like plug and play and build away? Is there anybody testing it out?
Yeah, you got a few minutes?
Yeah, we got a couple more minutes for sure. I mean, this is interesting.
So essentially, Komodo is able to port a lot of different blockchains into their ecosystem. Most recently, they did it with a new stablecoin that was put on Ethereum, and they've just recently ported it over to Komodo.
Which stablecoin?
GXC it was. It hasn't been released.
Okay. I thought it was Gemini for a second. I would have been like, damn.
No, yeah, that'd be fantastic. You would have heard about that, I think. But I'll send you a link after with the information. But most recently, so we mentioned Pirate a few times. I'm kind of work with the community. I work with JL77 and the developers over at Pirate to kind of I don't want to use the word shape the project because the project's got a life of its own, but we're 100% privacy coin. We basically came about at the end of August, beginning of September. Some of the developers were discussing why hasn't anyone done Zcash with Z to Z only, right? So when you talk about building and testing and developing, they literally went from that conversation to the next day testing to within a week or two having a running blockchain with Z to Z only transactions. In the week or two after that, they had done testing in KMD Laboratories. There's another chain on there. They do all testing. They try to break blockchains basically there. And so they figured out any issues with the chain and helped add delayed proof of work, which is the 51% resistance that Komodo can provide to any other chain. And Pirate was born out of just a discussion and people just took some of this utility and some of that and put it together, and then they rolled it up and lit it, and it's been running ever since. So there really is the ability for anyone to do that in Komodo. And if you had any development skill, you could walk right in, start asking literally the founder JL777 questions about your blockchain you want to build, and he'll start answering.
That's badass.
I don't know of any company in America where you can do something like that, right?
So maybe you could just dive in for a second or two, maybe on the platform of Pirate and how, like, maybe its roadmap or so and stuff, because you touched on how it's actually using Komodo to be what it is. But what is it exactly, and what's the roadmap for Pirate?
So Pirate is a ubiquitous privacy coin through and through. We're the closest thing to Monero in terms of privacy on blockchain right now. There are no public sends on the blockchain. The only public information you'll find on the Explorer are the Coinbases generated. And then after that, they're all required to be sent to Z addresses.
How do we prevent the supply from, how do we know what's in the circulating supply then if it's that private? Because that's something that's always questioned me about privacy coins is how do we know what's in the circulating supply if it's so private?
So we first trust the math. You obviously have access to the asset class parameters, so you know what the math is regarding that. And then again, you have the Explorer does show all the Coinbase generations, so you do see all the generation of the coins, just not where they're sent after that, right? So you have an auditable supply of original coins. You just don't have an auditable supply once they're sent from the mining address.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Because that would be a thing I would believe a lot of people would be questioning, because if they didn't understand privacy, they'd be like, well, sometimes it'd be too private and scare people away because they don't understand how anything could be validated, right? If it's that private, how do we know what's true?
Right.
All right, man. I guess I'll let you go, dude. This has been a hella conversation, man. I know that these guys have learned a lot. The chat has been hella active. Guys, thank you all for tuning in. Let them know a little bit, again, about where they can find you and wrap things up.
Sure. You can find myself on Twitter. I'm second oldest. I work on the Pirate Chain Twitter account. And This week, hopefully on Friday, we'll be listed on CryptoBridge, which will be crypto's second Z address only exchange. So crypto has not had any Z address only exchanges for Zcash until now, and we're coming on the second one this Friday, CryptoBridge. So check that out. And we are in the Komodo ecosystem. We've got a Discord. It's pirate.black/Discord. So I'll take you right to the invite link.
Epic, man. All right, guys, check it out. Don't forget to pound that thumbs up button, click subscribe, flick the alert bell, and have a day.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.